दामिनी घोष हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, विधि लीगल से जुड़ी हुई हैं, रिसर्च बहुत की है इस वर्क के लिए आप लोगों ने। तमाम नीतियाँ बनती हैं, ऐलान होते हैं, कानून के बारे में भी अगर कुछ है भी तो भी लोगों को पता नहीं है जो ये दिव्यांग वर्ग है। ज़रा बताइए क्या सिचुएशन आपने ज़मीन पर पाई?
Sure, thank you. So, a little bit about the Center for Legal Policy. We were set up in 2013 as a legal research think tank to make better laws and improve governance. And while we work on diverse practice areas, disability is something which we have started looking at more recently. And one of the aspects which we have covered is accessibility, particularly access to urban spaces. And really the work is about original independent legal research to understand the barriers in our urban spaces, which when they interact with the impairments of a person with disability and how they hamper that person from leading an independent life of their choice. So I think one of the main findings which came out through the course of last few years where we've done this work is specifically in the context of access to cities has been that the law is there. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act is a robust legal framework. It reflects our commitments under the UNCRPD. But one of the issues that came out was that lot of the enforcement machinery within the law itself, which is your SCPDs, your district level committees, the special courts, when framework like that has already been provided under the legislation, why is it that those have still not been put in place, right? The requirement of having accessibility standards for services and facilities which a city can offer, right? This is across sectors. Why have all those accessibility standards and requirements not been enacted till more recently, right? We now see a spate of initiatives being rolled out by the government. So I would say that while the framework is there, a lot of the details within the framework need to be acted upon. As Nipun said that the law was there, the framework is laid out, now we really need to take action.
Just a quick short question, 119 laws which were discriminatory,
yes.
आप लोगों की संस्था द्वारा उनको हटाया गया, थोड़ा सा बताइए इसके बारे में।
This was in relation to laws which had ableist provisions which discriminated against persons with leprosy. So it started as an exercise of us doing a full-blown legal analysis, finding it out, and then we had all this research. And but the question is, what is the impact of that research? Where is it going from there? And one option is, of course, we can approach different government departments across states and do it on a piece-by-piece basis, which is a very, very time-consuming process. We also felt at that time, this was some time back, that filing a more strategic litigation before the Supreme Court to take note of this exercise actually had a huge impact. It set a precedent which sort of triggered a movement within various state governments to start repealing these kind of discriminatory provisions.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask you itself, like, what is this next level of policies or frameworks that you're working on?
Okay, so right now a lot of the work, as I was mentioning, has been generally on access to urban spaces, and what has to be remembered with disability is, when I talk as a lawyer, is that it cuts across practice areas. You know, there is a whole component of access to urban spaces, then there's health, education, early intervention, sports, you name it. So it cuts across. The second aspect which one needs to keep in mind is that the implementation or the framework itself is spread across the central, the state, as well as the local levels. So there is a lot going on in that sense. And what we feel is that while a lot of our work has been general, now we've sort of started narrowing down on specific areas of intervention. So a lot of our work has been about focusing on, say, parks, on making inclusive play spaces, or to sort of put together representations on making buses accessible. We would have seen there has been a lot of talk about buses over the last few months, whether in Karnataka or at a national level. How, when we are procuring buses, at the start itself, can we have can we have a framework where accessibility measures are already incorporated rather than as an afterthought?
I wanted to just ask both of them, like how the urban space and the center, VD Center, has been influencing the kind of framework your research influences to the government, and how do you kind of take it up? Like how does the research made an impact?
As I mentioned earlier, the core of our work is research. Then after research, the next step that comes is dissemination, which is taking it to all stakeholders, which is not just government, but even public stakeholders, our collaborators, our partners. And after that comes, for us, impact is if we are able to convert that research into an engagement with the government. So typically in my experience at Vidhi, when we go take our work to particular stakeholders who are willing to make change within the government, sometimes they may take it up immediately. Sometimes they may come back in a few years' time saying that आपने ये बोला था, अब हमें करना है. Sometimes it may happen, they'll say, okay, we don't want to do this, but can you please help us out with this instead? This is the need of the hour. So and there are often times where we actually constantly engage, we are in touch, we stay relevant, we put our work out there to understand what is it that the government is interested in doing, whether it's at the center, at the state level, and we take forward our research to them. So there are different ways to sort of engage with the government and see what comes out. So in fact, more recently, we were interacting with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So, and we had gone to talk about some of our present research work, and it ultimately culminated into putting together a case compendium for all Supreme Court and High Court judgments, because the need was felt to sensitize persons with disabilities, their caregivers, and even persons without disabilities about the contours of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act and what the courts have had to say about it. So engagements and impact can translate into different ways.